looking at the horse from a distance, picking up all these little things that are trying to make a story when we actually get the horse over. Mine is pretty good, so unfortunately, no, from reading stuff about this, I can't show you. We also work our way around to the back of the horse, so we're looking for any kind of muscle asymmetry or any obvious swellings or anything like that. So this is Smiley's little butt on the left-hand side, which is looking pretty symmetrical and happy. And unfortunately, this is one of Ella's other horses. And you guys appreciate that we have pretty significant muscle wastage on the left-hand side of that horse. So this, again, if I was to see a horse like that, I would just in the back of my mind be thinking, well, are we going to be dealing with a predominant left-right lameness, which would be pretty, would be a pretty good guess at this horse. All right, so we've had a look, we've done a lap of the horse without even putting our hands on him. Next is going to be muscle palpation. So we start at the front end of the horse and work our way down, having a feel all of their neck, their cervical spine, over their thoracolumbar spine, so their pectoral muscles, and then back over the pelvis, feeling their dorsal sacroiliac movements. Again, looking for any exaggerated muscle spasm that might give us a little bit of an indication as to what's going on. So you can have severe reactions to some horses palpating over their back. And if I saw it was to see a horse with that, we might skip straight to x-raying the back, as we've seen quite a few cases of kissing spines. Is that short? Yeah. Which obviously you guys have probably all heard of and everyone dreads it, but you can see we've got nice clear spaces in between our spinous processes here, and then these three areas here are impinging and have new bone formations. So again, horses can have a sore back. Most horses that are in full work are going to have some degree of muscle pain. But if you put your fingers over the horse's back and all four feet come off the ground, it's going to be a little bit of an indication that might be something going on. So, muscle palpation, soft tissue swellings, groin effusions. Again, this is all just kind of our quick run over of the horse. If he's got a markedly infused carcass or a markedly infused fetlock, then that gives us an indication as to inflammation going on in that area. And last but not least, the static exam is digital pulses and hook testers, which you guys have probably seen us all do before. So feeling the palmar digital arteries at the back of the fetlock, and then hook testers, which we go all around the sole and over the bars of the foot as well. Alright, so that's the boring bit out of the way. Now let's get into the trot assessment of the walk and the trot. So this is part of our dynamic exam. So we look at the horse on both the hard and a soft surface. You will kind of hear quite a few vets talk about bone problems will be worse on a hard surface and soft tissue injuries will show up worse on this soft or a sandy surface, which is true to a degree, but again, it's all just bits of the puzzle trying to put together. So make sure we always put the horse on two different surfaces. And we're looking at things like foot placement. Is the horse tracking up okay? Is he kind of paddling? Are they weaving? Anything like that? Is there any neurological signs? So when we turn the horse around in the back of the trotting track, is there any evidence of the horse being weak, or does he interfere with back legs and really fall over? Any of those kinds of things. And then at the trot, obviously looking for, is there an obvious lameness or an asymmetry? So how do we actually figure out which leg is lame? Basically, with the front end, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of down and sound. I kind of teach that on day one of the equine section at vet school. So down and sound is basically when the down leg of the horse is sure the basically the leg that the horse is not laying on. So when they land down that, they're landing with more pressure because they're trying to get off the foot that hurts. Same with us, if you have a sore leg, you're going to get off the leg that hurts. You're going to come down harder on your sound leg. So the head is going to bob down when you're on the sound leg. So you get your head bobbing towards the lameness. With our hind end, which is obviously notoriously more difficult to diagnose, unfortunately. But basically what we're looking for is we can see these two little, imagine little cotton blue ones on the points of the hips. What they should do when a horse is trotting is oscillate really nice and evenly. So we're looking for a hip hike or any difference in range of motion in those two little points. So I've got a video of quite a lame horse just at the walk. Have a look and see if you can identify which leg you think is the lame one. You got a 50% chance of Someone, yeah. If it's not an indication, of course, it's very just a motion. That's fine. Just keep that up. Yeah, so when he comes closer again, so and if you kind of imagine there's two little pom-poms on the sides of his head, he's got a bigger range of motion in that left-hand side. This is obviously a pretty extreme example, but it's still that's exactly what we're looking at. He had a fraction of so we look at the horse at a walk up and down, then go for a baseline trot up and down, and then the next point of call is to start doing some flexion tests. So we flex the distal or lower limb of all four, which everyone says is just a fetlock flexion, but it's not. It's the fetlock, the casting, and the locking joint. So it's not just doing the fetlock. So we do that on all 4 feet. Then we do calf flexion, which is just the knee, and then again we will be doing lower limb and the hind limb. Upper limb flexion behind is hop, stifle, and hip. You can't just flex one joint in the upper limb or in the distal exam of the horse. So crank on those for 60 to 90 seconds, and then we chop the horse off. And what we're looking for is basically an exacerbation in soreness to kind of give us a bit more of an idea of where that lameness might be coming from. So if there's a marked response to distal limb flexion and a bit of a net response to knee, and that horse is lame in that leg, then we're thinking it's going to be something lower down. So it's all about trying to put these pieces of the puzzle together. And then we look at the horse on the lunge. So especially the lunge is for your cases where you're coming into poor performance, when you really need to look at the horse at different gaits. So not just for finish, but the trot and as a canter. So the things I'm looking at is, does the horse pick up correctly? Does he disunite? Is he counterflex on the leg? What is that horse doing when you ask him to come back to the trot? So I'm sure we've all had those horses that are completely blind hopping, picking up incorrectly, that's ugly and you can't sit through it. Well, I have anyway. So my own horse is shocking at the moment. But it means that there's a source of pain. It means that there's something going on, and that's why the horse isn't willing to go into your normal hands and picking up it correctly. And this is going to be the horse that has no lameness, baseline, straight line. So the only thing that we're picking up is an abnormality at the hand up on the lunge. Transitions, asymmetry, toe dragging, which is hard sometimes. As a horse can be just lazy tail. But this is a horse on the lunge, so this is a, well, I won't tell you. See if you So this is a video from Golden Valley. So kind of look towards the front of the horse, so head bobbing lameness. So remembering down the sound. So which leg is this horse going down? Going down on, going down on left four, which means it's just the left. Right, beautiful. Yeah, so down is down, down, yeah. I imagine it was probably in for a bonus or something. So. All right, so what do we do? We've done all of that kind of exam. We've had a look at everything. What's the next step? So if there's a really obvious localizing sign, as I said, there's a really disjoint, the back is horrendously painful, we kind of skip a couple of steps and we can target our focus to those areas. But if there's absolutely nothing on the horse, no pain, no swelling, nothing like that, then basically we have to start square one and we have to do nerve blocks to kind of figure out where the pain is coming from. So nerve blocks can be done either perineurally or intra-articularly. So perineural means just around the nerve, which is kind of if you've ever had a block with the dentist. So that's a perineural injection. Or intra-articular just means straight into a joint. So on the next slide, I'll kind of go through where we can do them. But basically, we start at the bottom and work our way up. We scrub the area, and then we use a local anesthetic. We normally use bupivacaine, which has an onset of action of about 15 minutes, takes to kick in. So we're going to get you guys a coffee, kind of chill out for a little bit. And then the duration of action lasts about 2 to 3 hours, which is good because these lameness exams, if we're dealing with multiple legs, we have to do quite a few blocks that can take a little bit of time. So, and we need a twitch. So I know all of your horses are really lovely, but when we go to be sticking needles in their legs, it is a safety concern for us and for the horse. So pretty much I will twitch everything unless I know the horse and have worked with him before or her and know that it's really, really quite animal. But you just, the first thing that possibly happens is if they strike out when I'm sticking it in, and they're like, just random, right? I'm sticking a sharp object into their leg. Worst case is if they snap that off and then, we end up having to go to surgery to get it out. So just expect your horse will be twitched if you come in for an examination. So in terms of nerve blocks, as I said, if you've ever had one at the dentist, the whole idea is that it numbs out a portion of your anatomy. So in the horse, these are the nerves that kind of come down from the kind of the armpit, and they run straight down the legs of the front horse. You can see the little red lines here. And because their anatomy is so straight, we take that to our advantage. So we start off at the foot, and we would normally block kind of just below the fetlock here. So we would inject local anesthetic at this area over the nerves. And what it would do would desensitize everything from here down. So we numb out the foot. So you can't, unfortunately, start up here. Well, you can. But then if the horse goes down, then we've got a really big area that it could be in. So we start off low. Say we take out the foot and the horse is still laying, then we would move up. And we do a nerve block above the fetlock, the horse goes down. Right, so then we know that it didn't block to here, but it did block to here. So it's got to be something in this area that is causing a problem. So what do we do then? We have to go into imaging. So normally most of the problems that we see are going to be bone related. Well, no, that's not fair. Probably more bone related, but not most of them, which we would look at on x-rays. So x-rays are really good for bone. We can diagnose things like arthritic changes. We can see joint fragments or fractures. We have a few pictures of here. So we have horrendous Huston joint arthritis here. You can see all of the new bone formation over that joint. So that's a really extreme example of degenerative joint disease. We have a nice little fragment here in the front of our fetlock. So this would be pretty much the scenario I just gave you. That's kind of what I would be expecting to see. And then obviously more severely, this is a lateral condyle fracture, so something that's seen very commonly in our race horses. So the limitations of X-ray, obviously, they don't look at soft tissue, they're only looking at bone, and that includes cartilage. You can't see cartilage on X-ray. So we know that cartilage is obviously living in here in between our joints, but we don't know if that is torn to shreds or if that is still intact on X-ray. We also can't, for the most part, diagnose stress fractures. So stress fractures, we get hairline, we get fissure fractures that you see a lot in race horses. Only about, depending on the study you look at, up to 50% can be diagnosed on x-rays. So a lot of those you can re-x-ray a couple of weeks down the track, and then the fracture gap actually widens a little bit. So little x-rays we get through and we can see it. But when stress fractures first occur, we often can't pick up on x-rays, which is why we would then go to a bone scan, which is what Max is going to talk about later. If our x-rays are absolutely clear, then we would go to looking at the soft tissue structures in that area, and we do that via ultrasound. So looking at our tendons and our ligaments for tears or strains. I've put other things that we kind of use it for. Obviously, you can't assess a foot abscess with an ultrasound, but I mean more of an abscess if you've got a penetrating wound everywhere, or any masses or effusions in tendon sheaths and all that kind of stuff is where we reach ultrasound, which we have some pictures of here. So this is a flexor kind of tendon scan. So we've got our superficial, our deep, our check ligament, and our suspensory down here. And this is just an example of quite a large pore lesion, so the black hole in the superficial there, which you can see on the longitudinal scan as well. So this is every horse owner's worst nightmare. So basically looking at the soft tissues in terms of ultrasound. But again, limitations with that are that subtle tears you can miss, and you can't image anything within the capsule with the ultrasound. So the book doesn't let us in. So that, if we had blocked it out to the foot, x-rays are clear, ultrasound we can't use, that's when we would then refer to MRIs, which is also on that. And that's it. So hopefully that was a quick little overview of how we conduct a lameness exam. Obviously, it can get a lot more in depth than that. Like these lameness exams can take anywhere from an hour, if it's something really obvious, to multiple days that you're having to reblock horses and work up multiple days. So That obviously kind of just, that's not every case. Please don't be scared to bring the horse in for a lane assessment, but it can just be very dependent on the horse. Yes. Yes. Like you said, yeah. So the question was, can we do nerve blocks along the spine? You can, in terms of injecting local anaesthetic. Normally, you get a pretty good indication something's going on just from palpation alone, and it's very obviously diagnosed from the X-rays that we had. And then part of the treatment plan is you can inject steroids and local anaesthetic into the area. You don't get a very long-term effect, but you can, if you're not injecting into a joint around a nerve, is the only thing. You're injecting into a muscle belly. So you can, if you're wanting to know if that was a problem, is that kind of more thinking? Yeah. You could, it wouldn't be as specific as if you were doing that.
It's very, very hit and miss, local anaesthetic on the spines and things like that, and people get extremely nervous, and I've seen it several times injecting sacroiliacs with local anaesthetic because you can paralyse the sciatic nerve, and they therefore can't walk on that leg until the local anaesthetic wears off. So it's not the best diagnostic method, as Kristen said. Yeah. I have a question, Kristen, that people probably want to ask. When vets are doing flexion tests on their horses, how can one vet come up with one thing and then another one tell them a totally different thing? Yeah. So how does that work?
Yes. It is a bit, well, I feel like it could be a couple of things, but mostly it's going to be the consistency of how hard you're flexing the joint. So I suspect myself and Matt's each surgeon would probably crank on the joints a little bit more than someone else. So it's all about consistency. So if I was to flex, say I was going to do the fetlock and the knee on one horse, I would continue with the whole thing. I wouldn't then get, one of the junior associates to come and flex up. You just need to be consistent throughout what you do. But with that said, I feel like the horse can change on a day-to-day basis as well. So,
is it true you can make any horse line?
Yeah. But then that's about the interpretation.
So vet checks and that line checks are really subjective.
Yeah, and that's it. It's super subjective. So there's a lot of published literature saying that myself and Max can look at 10 horses and we could pick 10 different legs as to what line. Yeah, our agreement would be pretty low. Yeah. Which, makes it really difficult for you guys, but it's more, so if I'm flexing a joint, as I said, I probably flex it harder than other people would. I'm going to forgive the horse for giving a few steps. It's going to be lame. Like if that horse does one step, like of course it's going to be, I'm just been standing there cranking on it for a minute. But if the horse is still laying at the other end of the trotting track that's, 30 metres down the way and is laying all the way back, then that's, yeah. And that's the after hours phone going nuts. So I might have to leave it there. So, but I'll rotate this and then please, any other questions, maybe hit Matt's up now.
Sorry, I can jump in if you need to answer that.
Yeah.
Just a quick one. Looking at hips.
Yep.
Your hip work. So you're doing flexion on your hip, and you say on the left leg.
Sure.
So you've kind of pulled it forward, and then what you find is the horse is not really put the foot down, and it's literally going like that.
Yeah.
And it's literally holding the leg up. And what would that show for you as a vet? Have you, what have you seen?
Yeah. So the question there is when you're doing a upper limb flexion and a hind leg, and they're sort of unreleasing weight there on there, and it might be around the hip area. What does that indicate? Is that?
Yeah.
So upper limb flexions, especially in the hind leg, can be even harder to interpret. The reason why that is, you've actually got something called the reciprocal apparatus. Is when you pick up that leg, you flex the hop, and you're actually flexing the stifle to try and get to the hip. So you're actually flexing pretty much half the horse behind. Hip problems are actually very rare as well, and to actually trigger you know, hip plane and deflection test, you've got to really crank it. I find that incredibly, even for myself, hard to interpret a positive result thinking it's actually coming from the hip. And it's quite rare. If I'm having to flex that hard to try and trigger a hip issue, I would be going, look, I flex the stifle pretty hard and hop just to get to that. So I would not be going, right, it's definitely, you know, in the hip area. I would just think that's a positive inflection. I wouldn't say hip stifle or what I'd be going, that's positive for the other thing. So probably not. Rightio. So let's have a little break now before we do the next walk. There is pizza for everyone there, so just go up, grab some pizza. There's also plenty of drinks over there, tea, water, soft drinks, everything, and go to
What do you get? Just in Turkey.
I'm not sure you tell me, right? We just got to
There's so much pressure on it. It's breaking in its socket.
That's the problem. Page 5, page 3.
It's
Very good. Yeah, oh, that's better.
Yeah, I didn't even know this was projecting them up here.
Yeah, that's the mouth of the
Yeah.
all the cables run up through there. Yeah. All right. Thanks for coming up.
No, that's okay.
Hey, man. Yeah, a big week.
Yeah, not much. Depends on anything before this weekend. So
It's so good. Yeah.
that's good. That's so you both want to come to the Saturday night.
Yeah.
And then on the Saturday, Sunday, it's like with the family now. Okay. We are smart.
Yeah.
So they're very to oh, Andrew Hayes. Oh, yeah. Oh, and then come there within the minutes. And then Andrew Hayes, Andrew Hayes is up to we're going to let Andrew Hayes. Yeah, so yeah. Yeah, I'm getting some shit.
Yeah, so a big thing about it,
Count it. Too bad.
Okay, have you got a very
already.
Alright, everyone, we'll make a start again in a minute or two. And there's one big pizza here. We ordered that one. Anyone for a vegan pizza? Oh, okay.
This is kind. Yeah, rating Just to give you the click up.
All right, we'll make a start on the next presentation here, everyone. We've got Dr. Kate McKinnon, who's been with us at West Coast for a few years now. Kate has a very interest in lameness investigation and treatment and orthopedic and soft tissue injuries. So she's one of the vets if you do in for a lameness assessment and treat you. Here's Kate.
As Matt said, I've worked here for a couple of years now. This was something that last information. One of my biggest cards was sent to 22 students. One of my biggest cards was access to those. All right, so March 9th,